A new year is almost here. What will 2025 bring to the River City? Mayor Donna Deegan walks through her holiday wishes, if not her resolutions, as the calendar turns. We're diving into important topics in the region, like the coming graduate campus for the University of Florida. Plus, what are the results from recruiting businesses in the United Kingdom? That and much more on This Week in Jacksonville. Thanks for being with us here. Final Sunday of the year, and as 2024 comes to a close, we are wrapping up what this year meant for the River City, and we're looking ahead to what 2025 could hold. Joining us for that is Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan. Mayor, it's great to have you with us again, and especially as we look at what's happened in this year. We can look just what's happened this last week. The idea of the University of Florida doing a graduate campus even closer to reality now after finalizing. Here's the location. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this has been one we've been waiting on for a while. We really wanted this location because we've been looking so hard at what development in that area would mean for possibly passenger rail. Obviously, we would have been happy with any location they chose, but they needed extra acreage. We were able to provide that with some vacant lots that we had down there, but also just that whole connection to our Fintech hub that we already have in Jacksonville. It's going to be a perfect location for that graduate campus, and we're truly excited about the opportunities around economic development, around obviously becoming a tech city. Downtown development, you're going to have this 22-acre campus that is going to, over time, be the anchor there at the west end of downtown, with the sports and entertainment complex being on the east end. So there are so many wonderful things about this that will bring a great return on investment for our citizens.
Yeah, so you were looking at some of the renderings there, what the school will look like, and you're seeing some of the area. The site that the UF Board of Trustees unanimously approved this last week was in the La Villa neighborhood. And as we talk about that, this campus is also going to be home to the Florida Semiconductor Institute in that area near the Prime Osborne. You and I were talking, that's an important component, the Semiconductor Institute for UF.
Well, this is what really, truly we have been talking about for a long time. We have been trying to reel that piece in addition to the campus, because we feel like that could have such an enormous impact on Jacksonville in a number of ways. $100 million economic impact just right out of the gates. And then another additional, tens of millions from the state, because that whole semiconductor industry is something we're trying to bring into the United States and make sure that we're creating that industry of the future again, certainly of the present and of the future. And we'll be a big part of that because we'll be training the workforce on semiconductor technology.
Yeah, so these semiconductors are the microchips that, as we've learned, having this being planned here, the building blocks for powering defense and aerospace industry, smartphones, computers, automobiles, all these sorts of things that are part of daily life now for us, pretty common.
That's right.
But not having access to those because they weren't manufactured here in the United States,
That's right.
And then to have it in our region seems like a big win.
It absolutely is. I mean, over time, this could be absolutely enormous. It will be absolutely enormous for our city in terms of continuing to be that tech hub that we want to be.
So this school, as I understand, graduate school, but offering multiple graduate degrees, enrolling up to about 1,000 students I saw, and they expect to open in the fall of 26. You really feel like this is going to be worth the investment both the city and the state are making in it?
There's absolutely no question that it's worth the investment. It is my job not to just look at the next year or two. It's my job to look at the next 10, 20, 30 years. What is Jacksonville going to look like? So when we look at all the different, look at the components that are coming together for us, in Fintech and MedTech and in so many of those industries that we're trying to focus on, aerospace, all those things. This feeds perfectly into that. But then when you talk about that Semiconductor Institute, there will be investment after investment in that institute, and it will provide the workforce that these companies that we're bringing to Jacksonville will want, and we'll be educating them right here.
What do you think about is there a competitive aspect to this with Edward Waters University is here, FSCJ, Jacksonville University, UNF. Is there some competition? Hey, they've got this program and that's really my territory. Or are they different enough that they can still complement each other at these other institutions?
Well, remember, these are all graduate degrees, high-level graduate degrees. And so we have graduate programs at our other universities too. And I would envision, and I believe the University of Florida is envisioning, a collaboration at the end of the day. When you see cities that have brought, obviously University of Florida is an enormous brand. And you see cities that have brought these big universities into their downtowns. But the partnerships with other universities are critical. You know, I envision at some point to see something that you might call a graduate core in that area of downtown, where you'd have graduate students from UNF and from JU and from Edward Waters, and those students would all have an opportunity to interact together. That's really a strength. And I think that when I've had conversations with Maury Hosseini, who really has been on the UF board driving this, he has stayed in constant contact with those folks, making sure that they continue to build those partnerships and envision how all of that is going to work in tandem. So I think it's going to end up being a net positive for everybody, basically the rising tide that lifts all boats at the end of the day.
Well, and you talked about the location here, so that's west end of downtown,
Yeah.
sports complex on the east end of downtown there. But what does this school do for developing in Brooklyn or surrounding areas there? It seems like it would just feed more growth there.
Well, you bet. And you know, one of the things that will absolutely pop up is additional housing for those students, right? That's another thing that the other universities, if they had a presence down there, would bring, because they already have a lot of graduate students. Everybody's lacking housing. So housing would be a big portion. You're going to see entertainment pop up for those students. You're going to see restaurants. You're going to see, you know, as I said, eventually what they're going to do with the Prime Osborne is they're going to keep the historic part of it, and the rest of it will actually become, you know, sort of an entertainment venue, sort of entertainment shops, places for folks to mingle. I think you're going to see an enormous, and then it all connects with the Emerald Trail. You know, so I think you're going to see a great deal of additional development down there, and that's the idea. So what happened last year is we got something from the federal government called the Build America grant, which is $1.5 million grant to basically vision what transit-oriented development would look like around that La Villa region where the Prime Osborne. So what the plan eventually will be is to redevelop that the actual building, but then create a new train station right on the edge of that property. So that's where we're going right now. We have to build a whole team to vision it, which we will, and we've got the money to do it from the grant from the federal government.
Before we go in this segment, just briefly, I know that the idea that La Villa, you know, is growing here. Part of that connects with what JTA is doing, because they're trying to decide whether the Skyway track is going to be converted into this track for autonomous vehicles. That's going to go onto this innovation corridor that they've got. But all of this is kind of happening, I guess. Do you think at the right time, at the same time here? Oh
my gosh, I don't think the timing could be better. This is going to be a perfect opportunity to have that innovation corridor right there, which is all still on schedule. I think that the study is really part of probably the federal money that they've received for this project, but also to take a look at what is the optimal way to use those vehicles in that Skyway. So, but with all of that additional development there, are you kidding me? That's going to be a wonderful opportunity to have people use that.
Yeah, there's a couple of phases there, and we're talking really about kind of a phase 2. JTA now going to conduct this study. They're trying to determine the locally preferred alternative for a second phase of the system. But this is something that we know JTA has been working on over years to see, and really kind of a leader in the country on this. So Mayor Degan is going to stay with us for our next segment, and we're going to talk about kind of the mystery company finally unveiled and moving key operations to the River City. So don't go anywhere. You're watching This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan is with us today. So this was pretty exciting. The unnamed financial services company that we just knew about as the Paper Project, we found out this week a recipient of a $21 million incentive package from the city, revealed this month as Intercontinental Exchange. And tell us about this. They're going to make basically establish the national headquarters for the mortgage and technology division in Jacksonville.
Well, I sort of feel like I'm a broken record, but this again is driving exactly the type of business that we want, the workforce that we want here in Jacksonville. It continues to establish us as a fintech hub. Obviously, this is a tremendous company. That you recall they acquired Black Knight, which was here. And ICE was actually one of the companies we met with when we were in London. But
So that's just in October you're talking about, or a previous trip to London?
I believe we first started talking with them in our previous trip.
Okay, wow.
But these were not the only conversations we've had, obviously. But we had an opportunity to sit down with them, and this is just a wonderful opportunity for investment in our city. $216 million they're planning to invest in the city. They're going to have overall 2,000 jobs that will be here, 500 in addition to the 1,500 they currently have, and that's where really those incentives are tied into. They're tied into job creation. There's a per person amount of money that you get for job creation. And there's a Rev grant that's involved with that. But again, this is exactly the type of big win that we want, because people will see that. They'll see that name. They'll see that headquarters is here, just like so many of the other ones we're starting to build up in our city. And I think we're just going to see that continued attraction of people who recognize that we are a great place to do business. We have a wonderful quality of life. There are so many great things about doing business here in Jacksonville. The low taxes, there is an attraction to this city that will only be made stronger by having companies like ICE here.
Yeah, and beyond the dollars and cents, like, look, there's the sun. You don't get that in Ohio this time of year.
You don't. Although it's funny because we had the folks from the UK here the other day. The consular general was here from Miami, in addition to a lot of people that were here from London. And the weather was just classic London. It was just complete fog. And I said, you see the lengths that we go to make you feel at home here in Jacksonville?
How about that? So as we're talking about Intercontinental Exchange, and you just mentioned some of the details there, I understand they're spending a minimum of $173 in capital investment, and you just talked about that $260 million.
That's over 7 years.
Okay, yeah. And that's construction, equipment, building improvements to the headquarters. Do they have a location yet? Not quite?
No, they do not. Not as far as that's not that I know. Yes, I know we've heard a bunch of different things, but I don't know where it's going to settle. I know they don't have a final deal yet.
Let's talk a little bit more about the incentives. So I was looking into this state's portion of the deal. There's a state component to this as well, right? High impact performance incentive award of $4 million, capital investment tax credit $120 million. But that's kind of the limit of what the state of Florida can be involved in on the tax liability limit. Is that right?
Well, from what I understand, they're still negotiating that piece with the state. So I don't know where exactly that's going to land.
What's the importance of having that state partnership with what the city can do to bring more, in this case for ICE, to do this here in the River City?
Well, look, remember, we just signed that big MOU with the UK. And part of that is we're all working together to try to make sure that we can maximize all of that. The focus is on Fintech, on aerospace, on life sciences. Those are basically the three big focuses of the MOU. And think about Jacksonville with all three of those things. I mean, we're perfectly positioned. But in order to win those things, you need the state, you need the city, you may need help from the federal government, you need all of it. But at the end of the day, it is a group effort to make sure that we are bringing the resources to Jacksonville that match best with Jacksonville, and will bring the best return for those companies as well. What I stay laser focused on is what will bring the greatest return back to us. And there's a million things we would like to do. At the end of the day, that's how you prioritize. What will bring the greatest ROI back to our citizens?
Yeah, taxpayers, whether a specific topic they agree or disagree, the notion is, thank you, yes, please, whatever money we're spending, let's make sure that it's got a great return.
You bet.
I understand you participated in a couple of roundtables on infrastructure and fintech with the British consulate team. What can you tell me about that?
Well, I tell you, one of the things that was really fun to share with them, because we had a lot of folks around the table, Jacksonville companies and folks from the UK, but it was fun to share the brain gain information with them, and I know you probably all have reported that, but we were one of the only big cities in the country to record a large brain gain of college-educated students moving to their area, and they were really excited to hear that. But the whole idea of these conversations is, let's reduce whatever friction there may be to creating a pathway for these companies to come here and be successful. So can we put a package together, one from the state, from the city, that basically zeroes in on why is Jacksonville a good fit for this company? Why is this company a good fit for Jacksonville? And frankly, like everything else, it's relationships. People like to do business with people they know. And we had just wonderful conversations with these folks. We had one gentleman who's there, and his name escapes me at the moment, but he was from Northern Ireland. And his hand must have shot up 100 times, and we were
Really?
you know, we have that too. We have that too. We'd like to partner on that too. And it's just great to see the enthusiasm.
I was going to say enthusiasm coming through right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you put it, people will do business or make deals with people they know, like, and trust.
That's right.
So the relationship component pretty important. So also important, this relationship, and we're going to do one more segment with Mayor Donna Deegan here. So stay with us. We're going to talk about some of her administration's priorities and programs from the first year in office. But what does she want to see in 2025? Stay with us. We'll be right back on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan is with us. Mayor, when you took office, your transition committee identified some various initiatives that you said were, hey, these are a priority for our administration. And then you got $26 million in funding from the city council set aside for those. This month, your administration reporting back to council with the results. I just want to walk through some of those, and then I want to hear from you.
Sure.
Some of the different areas of funding: nearly $5.9 million for youth and families, $4.75 million for the American Dream categories. That's regarding home ownership. Roughly $3.4 million to address homelessness, $5.7 million for a healthier Jacksonville, nearly $2 million to build local business. So how do you feel about what was accomplished there? What are some of the headlines from, hey, here's how that transition money went to work for us?
Well, we're actually very excited to be able to report those results to the City Council, because they've been extraordinarily successful, and the members of our community that took part in that transition work really came up with some outstanding suggestions. But, you know, I'll just start with literacy. I mean, it has been enormously successful. We know that if you don't have literacy as a benchmark for your kids, if they're not reading at grade level, at a third grade level, that they're not going to be successful adults. So we had a heavy focus on that, tried to get 300,000 minutes read. I think at last report, we're up to 2.4 million minutes, but we're marrying that with a truancy program as well that we're working on with the school board, because we know the kids need to be in school also, but that's been enormously successful, and we're going to continue that in the coming year. As far as health is concerned, I got to tell you, that HealthLink program saved us $500,000 in the very first month that it was enacted.
Briefly explain that. I know we talked about it last time.
HealthLink is a program for uninsured individuals. They call a phone number. They're connected via video chat, basically, with a physician or with a health professional that will then connect them with a physician. But the bottom line of this is, what you're really trying to do is you're trying to decrease the number of emergency room costs.
Because those are the most expensive visits that any patient can have.
Primary care, least expensive. Emergency care, most expensive. So we were able to drive enough of those folks to get help in other ways, aside from just that, I'm just going to go to the emergency room. We connected them with healthcare professionals who were able to solve their problems through other resources we have. And in the first month, $500,000. I can't wait to see where that goes.
Yeah.
on homelessness, hundreds of citizens were kept in their homes because of eviction prevention programs that we had in place, and roof replacement programs. I don't know if you remember that one. Then housing, 300 more affordable housing units, aided by capital stack and tap fee programs. Dozens of first-time homeowners got help thanks to a down payment assistance. So those were some really big wins. And I don't know if you remember the big hoopla last summer over the pools, that we had only a fraction of them that were open.
We do.
We opened all 29 pools over the summer, and swim lessons increased by 129%. And then research shows that reduces drownings by 88%.
Yeah. So a safety, a preventive measure for people to get hurt or killed.
So a whole lot of, there's a whole lot more I could shove into that, but those were some of the things that I thought were really takeaways for people to say, you know, in many ways, education and a little bit of prevention and a little bit of elbow grease can go a long way, as opposed to sometimes, you know, letting things balloon out of control and then you know, trying to reel them back in. We really have done a good job, I think, with these transition, I don't know what we call them, test cases, that we'll be able to go back and say, hey, we should continue to fund those
Mayor, I set aside some time here just to hear from you. What's your vision for 2025? What are the big things that you want to see accomplished in Jacksonville and Duval County in the next year?
Well, obviously, we still have some work to do on affordable housing and on the homelessness initiative, which we're going to continue to try to push funds in and resources into those issues, because the affordable housing issue is key for us. That's just really important. Obviously, we want people to feel safe on the streets. We want our homeless population to be viable, and those are things we'll continue to focus on. But a lot of them are the things we've already talked about. The telehealth program, we want to expand that. We think it could save a whole lot more money.
Well, seeing it successful in the early stages, yeah, you would say let's do more of this,
yeah,
right?
Oh gosh, absolutely. I mean, we want to continue to push forward our lean initiatives. We have been able to save more than 100,000 hours in waste. We want to translate that into what can we save as a city? How can we streamline things to make sure we're being the most efficient with our taxpayer dollars? I think that's another, obviously the first phase of the riverfront is going to be done next year. We're really looking forward to that. All those things, in addition to continuing to work on our literacy initiatives. River City Readers is going to expand some. We're going to have a bookmobile that we're going to take around the city to get kids and families more involved in that. And just, those sort of healthy life issues. I think that's really, really important as we continue to look forward to getting the CBA board together for that community benefit agreement, and the Journey Forward board, is another one that will come into existence. We just put it together. That will continue to help us keep crime in check in our city. And then probably the biggest thing is zoning. We have to look at proper zoning for our city to make sure we have the right density in certain areas, to make sure we're being attentive to resiliency issues. That's going to be a big deal in the year to come.
And at the risk of cutting you off, you got a lot planned in 2025, and I appreciate sharing so much through this entire show today.
Thank you so much.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Best to you in 2025.
You as well.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. This week in Jacksonville, we air each Sunday morning at this time. Thanks for watching on air on Channel 4 and the CW17, and then online at news4jax.com or streaming on News4Jax Plus.
See why every day more people are choosing News4Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.